welcome. You're watching the Newshour Agenda. I'm Padmaja Joshi. In the last 48 hours, much has been said, hypothesized, overhyped, and sometimes underplayed about what really happened at Tawang on the 9th of December. Was this an attempt to carry out Galwan 2.0? Is China actually sitting on our land in Arunachal? Is this an escalation by China that the government is in denial about? Is this something that is out of the ordinary and a sign that worse is just around the corner for India at the LAC? The reason I'm asking all of these questions is because all of these questions and all of these possibilities and probabilities were thrown at us over the last 48 hours. So first, let's begin by understanding what exactly happened. First, the scene of crime, as it were. Where did the clash happen on the 9th of December? Here is what I can tell you for sure after verifying. This is a disputed area. The place where the clash happened is a disputed area on the McMahon line at Yangtse in Tawang sector of Arunachal Pradesh. Now remember, this is not Tawang proper. That is quite a distance away from the LAC. We're talking about the Tawang sector, and the clash happened at Yangtse. This actual point, by the way, is 35 to 40 kilometers ahead of Tawang towards the Chinese side. So Tawang is here, then here is Yangtse, and this is where the LAC is, and then there is China. From here, the PLA's Nagdo camp is very clearly visible on the Tibetan plateau. In the Nagdo camp, the Chinese have recently increased their battalion strength from 1 to 3 battalions. Earlier, there was 1 battalion of the PLA at Nagdo camp. Now there are 3 battalions which have been positioned over the last few months. Now let me show you a satellite image. What you're seeing on your screen is a Chinese dual-use village, a satellite image of a Chinese dual-use village where the PLA troops gathered. Just for perspective, here on a peak is where we have our observation post. This, what you see, is a dual-use Chinese village which is just below our post. This dual-use village is where the PLA troops gathered. Right above this is the Indian Army post at Yangtse, and it's at a height of 14,000 feet. The PLA expected, because remember, this is December, at this time of the year, all of this area is snowed in. So the PLA expected that we would have a very thin presence there and they would be able to overrun it. But India knew. We preempted the Chinese troops, pushed them back in the manner that they deserve. Of course, there was jostling. Physical injuries have been sustained on both sides. The number that I can confirm is 6 injuries on our side who are being treated in Guwahati and at least 30 injuries on the Chinese side. But the PLA troops were decisively pushed back. And that is exactly what the Defence Minister of India today reiterated in his statement inside Parliament.
चाइना के इस प्रयास का हमारी सेना ने दृढ़ता के साथ सामना किया है, अध्यक्ष महोदय, और इस फेस ऑफ में हाथापाई भी हुई है। भारतीय सेना ने बहादुरी से पीएलए को हमारी टेरिटरी में अतिक्रमण करने से रोका और उन्हें उनकी पोस्ट पर वापस जाने के लिए मजबूर कर दिया, अध्यक्ष महोदय, कि हमारे किसी भी सैनिक की न तो मृत्यु हुई है और न ही कोई गंभीर रूप से घायल हुआ है।
जब तक भारतीय जनता पार्टी की मोदी सरकार चल रही है, 1 इंच जमीन पर भी कोई कब्जा नहीं कर सकता। कल अपने सेना के जवानों ने जो 8 की देर रात को और 9 की सुबह को जो वीरता दिखाई है, मैं इसकी भूरी प्रशंसा करता हूं। इन्होंने घुसे हुए सभी लोगों को कुछ ही घंटों में वापस खदेड़ दिया और हमारी भूमि का रक्षण किया है।
But statements by the Indian government clearly did not find many takers, from alleging that China has invaded India in Arunachal and the Modi government is remaining in denial, to insisted that China, even as we speak, is squatting on Indian land in Arunachal Pradesh. Cynics were convinced that the end is near. Some even insisted that if matters have to be rescued, if India has to get its land back, expeditiously an all-party delegation of our opposition should be dispatched to ensure that things were brought under control.
Of course, our army or the Air Force, they are very strong. You know, they are capable of handling these things. But there should be political backing and political will and vigilance. That seems to be lacking somewhere, because these incidents have taken place on 9th December, and today we are sitting on 13th. And what the political people are doing it? Prime Minister, is the chairman of the G20, and the China is one of the member of the G20. Prime Minister and Defense Minister will have to be more vigilant, and they will have to keep the nation informed. They keep the nation in dark.
We are not at all satisfied. We want the government of Sri Narendra Modi to show political leadership. No one is questioning the army's bravery. The army has always been brave, they'll be brave, but it is a lack of political leadership of the Modi government. Had they shown political leadership, Galwan would not have happened, Doklam would not have happened, China would not be sitting in Demchok and Demsok. China would not dare to come up from 13 feet down and come up 13,000 feet up and attack our army.
I don't know what failure the government of India had. They have not, some intelligence failure is there, they have not expected this. But the government of India should take responsibility for the fight, and they should also be more careful in the border areas. They don't care. They are for, they have a different agenda. The problem is their agenda is not to rule the country. Their agenda is to make the country a Hindu country. Their agenda is different, so they don't care for all these things.
While there is absolutely no denying the fact that China tried to mount an aggressive operation, is there any fact to claims that they now occupy Indian land and that India completely failed to anticipate it? Or is this another case of politics overtaking the understanding that we have an aggressive neighbor, and the only thing that can be done to counter this aggressive neighbor is to unite at a time like this and be aware that bickering, politicization and this constant self-doubt and self-flagellation is exactly what China was aiming at. It's exactly what would be a boon on a plate for China at this time.
You're watching the News Hour at 10, debate number 1 on Times Now, Super Prime Time.
All right, joining us on the debate, Sanju Verma, National Spokesperson of the BJP, Major General Dhruv Katoch, Director at India Foundation, Vivek Srivastav, Tehseen Poonawala, both political analysts. And my first question is to Bishwajit Deb, Spokesperson of the Trinamool Congress. Sir, I want to ask you about a claim that was made today by many politicians who said that Indian land has been occupied by China in Arunachal. Just curious, what is the source of this information?
Well, let me tell you that we are very much proud of our soldiers who fought bravely on the 9th. And we are with the country. That has been categorically stated by our leader, Mamata Banerjee, that so far as the national security is concerned, we are always with the country, we are always with the government. But the problem is, the government is not revealing the truth. They do not want to answer any questions in the parliament. They do not want to discuss such type of national security issues in the parliament. Today also, in Lok Sabha, our member of parliament, Saugata Rai, he is a very senior member. He raised a very pertinent question, but that particular question was not answered.
What is the question, sir?
In Rajya Sabha, notice was issued by the TMC MPs under Rule 267.
Can I know what was the question that was left unanswered?
We are actually worried about this particular fact, that what exactly does the government wants to hide?
Okay, what was the question that was unanswered?
Why the government is not revealing the actual fact?
So what exactly was the question that was left unanswered? If you could please, what exactly was the question that was left unanswered?
They do not want to discuss anything in the parliament.
But sir, what is the exact question? Because when it comes to whether Indian land is under occupation, that was categorically denied by the defense minister. Whether it be about the events of the 9th of December, that was spelled out in clear terms by the defense minister.
We have earlier also seen,
sir, what
in
is the exact
Pegasus
question?
issue, we have seen in the Rafale deal, in the Rafale deal.
Mr.
They
Dev,
don't want to answer
sir,
any questions.
let's not go to
Neither they
Rafale
want
because
any
Rafale has
discussion
been decided
in the
by
House,
court.
in the floor of the House.
If I may press
That
you
is the main
further on the
problem
specific
with
issue,
the government.
sir, what is the outstanding doubt/questions which remain unanswered?
I am again coming to this particular point, what I had earlier said, that the government doesn't want any discussion in the floor of the House. The people of the country has got the right to know exactly what is happening in the border.
But sir,
it's a
what is
question
it
of
that the
national
people
security
want to know
which
and
cannot
haven't
be
been told
compromised.
already? That is my specific question to you. The idea of a discussion was to get facts and answers. What exactly was the question that was left unanswered? Because when it comes, so okay, here were three questions that I have gleaned through the day from the debate that I saw, not a debate actually, from whatever interventions happened outside of Parliament and the bites that were given by various political parties. Question number 1. What happened on the 9th of December? To this, you have the Defence Minister saying, and I quote, on the 9th of December, PLA troops tried to transgress the LAC in Yangtse area of Tawang sector and unilaterally changed the status quo. The Chinese attempt was contested by our troops in firm and resolute manner. The ensuing face-off led to a physical scuffle. The Indian Army prevented the PLA from transgressing into our territory, compelled them to return to their posts. So this, short of naming the people and saying X ne Y ko mara, phir Z ne A ko mara, they have pretty much spelled out saying exactly what happened. A blow-by-blow account, pardon the bad pun. And the second issue was, is the Chinese army on Indian land, to which the Defence Minister said, and I quote, due to timely intervention of Indian military commanders, PLA soldiers went back to their locations. So can I ask you again, what exactly is the question that was to be brought up in the discussion, because it has been left unanswered?
Let me reply. I am again repeating that we are proud of our soldiers. Whatever our soldiers had done, we are proud of that. But the question is, have you ever seen our Prime Minister addressing a press conference on this issue since the last 8.5 years? Has it happened even for once that our Prime Minister addressed this particular national security issue in Arunachal Pradesh?
So you want a
even
press
for
conference?
Once? We have never seen.
All right,
we don't know.
A press conference. I want to get to General Dhruv Katoch. So you're basically saying that whenever there is any such issue, whether it be the Pulwama airstrike, whether it be Doklam, whether it be Depsang, whether it be what happened in 62, Aksai Chin, everything should be addressed in a press conference. Answer that specific question. What is stopping you from having a press conference, Sanju Verma? If the Defence Minister can make a statement in Parliament, he might as well just have a press conference.
I am not saying that. But the country...
Padmaja, I have been waiting very patiently for my
country definitely wants to know about
I refuse to speak unless you
from the
this
Prime
man.
Minister also.
I refuse to speak. I'm sorry.
Why isn't there a press conference?
No, I will, speak what I need to speak because this is a very sensitive issue. I'm not going to be dictated by what the TMC wants me to say. Because very cleverly, twice, you kept asking him what was the specific question that Saugata Roy wanted, answered on the floor of the House, and the TMC panelists refused to answer you directly and kept going in loops and kept circumventing your very pointed question. I will come straight to the point. Defense is a very sensitive matter. It is the government of the day which is constitutionally empowered to ensure that it has the prerogative, and rightfully so, to discuss and debate an issue, but when it chooses to do so, that is the government's prerogative. And I think be it the Defence Minister, be it the Home Minister, they have categorically said in no uncertain terms, ना 1 इंच कब्जा हुआ है और नरेंद्र मोदी की सरकार के चलते ना 1 इंच कभी कब्जा होने देंगे.
But why can't you say to the press conference? I think the very narrow concern right now is the lack of a press conference.
Padmaja, let me finish. You allow 10 minutes to the TMC panelists. You have this habit of heckling me the moment I start speaking.
So the cross question to you is, concern today is the press conference. Why can't you have a press conference?
Yes. You started cross questioning him after he was done by speaking 5 minutes at length. So please, Padmaja, be fair. You allow a long bhashan to the others. Indulge me a bit. Thank you. Let's be very clear. प्रेस कॉन्फ्रेंस प्रधानमंत्री करेंगे या नहीं करेंगे ये उनकी प्रेरोगेटिव है. ही इज द प्राइम मिनिस्टर and he has constitutional authority to decide how he handles matters of national security, including whether or not to have a press conference. But the defense minister has spoken, the MOD has spoken, the home minister has spoken, and if you are not convinced, then there is something seriously wrong with you, because it shows, and when I say you, I mean the opposition, it shows you are hell-bent on politicizing the issue. And since now you have decided to politicize the issue, let me quickly wrap up by just saying this, that be it Galwan, be it Doklam, be it now the Tawang sector, I have seen that each time there is a skirmish or there is a standoff between India and China, never has the opposition stood in solidarity with the Prime Minister or with the country. They start by saying we salute our armed forces. And within 2 seconds they say, but, we don't believe X and we don't believe Y. When you don't believe the government of the day, you are doing
with the country.
To the armed forces.
Only in words. Bishwajit Deb.
By repeatedly questioning the bona fides of the government on this matter,
we are always proud of our armed forces. We always stand by the national security. We are concerned about our national security. And we can only say one thing, that the discussions are required in the floor of the House, so that the people of the country can know exactly what is going on.
I think Tehseen Poonawala and Vivek Srivastava also want to come in. I just want to understand what is the TMC's official position. Do you believe that in Tawang Chinese troops are on Indian land? That Chinese troops have encroached Indian land? Mr. Deb, what is your official position? Do you believe that China has encroached on Indian land in Tawang?
I am again repeating that we are very much proud of whatever
so thank you
our
for that,
soldiers
but do you believe that
and
Chinese
whatever
troops are on Indian land, or that they have been pushed back?
Of the nation.
Do you believe there was an intelligence failure, or that there was an intelligence awareness, which is why they were preempted?
It is the entire credit goes to our soldiers who fought.
So General Dhruv Katoch, essentially, from what I have gathered is, the problem here is, why not have a little chat about it?
What I can say is this, that the people of the country,
you know, everyone will be at ease.
Right.
Just like we've had a little chat always, you know, on what's going on in Aksai Chin, what happened in 62, what happened in Doklam.
As if there is no opposition.
It's always healthy to have a conversation about these things. General Katoch.
Thank you, Padmaja. Padmaja, I just want to make a few things very clear, because I've commanded the division here and I know this area very well. Now, when you look at, from the Tri-Junction up to Yangtse, it's a distance of about 35 to 40 kilometers. And when we go further east from Yangtse, it is a totally glaciated area where for another about 100 kilometers there are no troops at all. So this Yangtse is the extreme flank. This is one. Now, as far as the Tawang sector is concerned, it is the most secure sector as far as India is concerned. The most heavily guarded, the most secure, and for most of the border, it is very well, the LAC is very well defined. Except for Yangtse at 1 or 2 points where there may be some perceptual differences, there is no problem in the rest of the area. Now, in Yangtse, we occupy the heights as far as the army is concerned. And as and when we see any Chinese patrol coming up, our own troops go down and they confront them. And generally, at that point of time, both sides go back. This time, I think the Chinese had a different thoughts on the subject. They thought that the Indian army has actually left those posts because of the winter. Sometimes you leave some posts in winter because of the bad weather, etc. And they thought they could occupy it. So they came in for a rude shock and they were sent back again. Now, this is actually what the ground reality is.
So, but if you're saying there's a rude shock, why are we being told about an intelligence failure? Because today the argument was that India was caught napping and China transgressed.
No, firstly, nobody has been caught napping in this sector. I know this area very, very well. We knew exactly what was happening, and the troops responded accordingly. I want to make very, in this entire LAC, it is only the army which is deployed. There are no villages there, there are no civilians there. So if anything goes wrong, it is not the opposition or the government or anybody else in India which is responsible. It is people like me who have been mandated to defend that area and guard it. So it is the complete responsibility of the army. And if you think that the army has not done their job well, then please say so. Right? I've got no problems with that. Then you can tell me that, okay, General, you are commanding this division. Why the hell haven't you done your job? I'll answer them. But in this particular case, I think this entire area is very well defended. It is monitored on a daily basis, on a every minute-to-minute basis. We know what is happening there. It is the most sensitive sector for India. And in my view, for China to attempt anything in the Tawang sector was sheer suicide.
So aside of the very fallacious comparisons that are being made to Galwan, here is what Tehseen Poonawalla, Lieutenant General Abhay Krishna, who's been our Eastern Army commander, has also written, and I quote, "There are 8 major points along the LAC covering Arunachal Pradesh where perception of LAC differs between India and China. The PLA, while patrolling on and off, keep attempting to get into these areas to mark their presence and reinforce their perception. Such skirmishes, therefore, keep taking place between patrolling parties. In fact, Tehseen Poonawalla, I spoke to officers who have been in Arunachal who said perhaps the most aggressive posture taken by the Chinese was in 2008 when the Dalai Lama made a very rare visit to Tawang. So was that also then, लाल आंख नहीं दिखाई 2008 में? Was that a failure of intelligence? This is something that the Chinese do because they are Chinese."
Good evening, Padmaja. Thank you so much for having me on your show. And at the onset, I want to thank Major General Dhruv Katoch for the services he's rendered to us. It is because of veterans like him that we are safe and secure. So thank you, sir, for your services. Padmaja, like you and the retired general rightly said, that Tawang is extremely important strategically to India. And China has been eyeing this since some time. It's important because China does not want any future Dalai Lama to be associated with the birthplace of the 6th Dalai Lama, which was Tawang, and there is a historical reason for this. I won't take your show to go into those details. That is, people can read up on that. Therefore, as the General rightly said, General Katoch rightly said, India's occupying heights at Tawang at the Hatungla Ridge. And this happened during Operation Falcon, followed by Operation Checkered Board. And Padmaja, for those who are interested in military history, and I know for one you are because you're one of the most well-read journalists in that, Operation Checkered Board was India's success story, as was our Operation Falcon. We put our soldiers on heights, we occupied Tawang, and as the General rightly said, every time China tried to intrude, our soldiers had the height advantage and we sent China back. In fact, during Operation Checkered Board, the Western world thought India and China will go into war. It was predicted. China had to backtrack. This was the second defeat China had after 67-68 with Nathula and Chola, where China lost the war to India. So one, gratitude to our service, to our soldiers for their valor. They keep protecting us. I think the question that the opposition is very legitimately raising is only this. These clashes took place on the 9th of December. So there are two parts. A, when they took place on the 9th, what was the Honorable Prime Minister celebrating until the 12th? Because the Prime Minister was continuously in celebrations. That's one, that's a political question. The second question that the opposition is raising, when these clashes took place on the 9th of December, why wasn't Parliament informed? Now, Padmaja, you remember, and you've covered Parliament and you cover both the opposition and the government, 600 odd intrusions during UPA time, 1200 odd during NDA time.
So essentially,
every time there was any intrusion or clashes during the UPA time, Padmaja, I'll just take 30 seconds. Just 30 seconds, one, I'll end. I don't have anything more to say. Just 30 seconds, I plead with you. Every time Sushma ji or the late Arun ji asked the UPA government to answer, they would answer on the floor of the House.
Okay, so basically your question is, after the press conference, why was the Parliament not informed in time?
Even if the Honorable...
Very humbly,
one more thing.
Let Sanju Verma respond, although I have to say, just a second.
10 seconds, just 10 seconds. Just 10 seconds.
Okay, 10 seconds, please,
10 seconds, 10 seconds. 10 seconds, 10 seconds. Even if the Honorable Prime Minister thought not prudent to inform Parliament on 9th or 10th because they were still going to get information, the NSA and the Defence Minister could have called up opposition leaders on a secret call. You know that happens, and tell them this is what's happened. We'll gather information and brief Parliament. One last thing. Today when the Honorable Defence Minister was speaking,
real-time information should have been relayed.
Today, and one last thing. And today when the Honorable Defence
real-time information. Please let Sanju Verma respond. Sanju Verma, real-time information not given.
Today, just one last line and I'm ending. One last line and I'll end. Today when the Honorable, one last line, Sanjuji, I'll plead and I'll end.
Please let Sanju Verma respond, otherwise we will never progress in this debate. Sanju Verma, real-time information not relayed. Yes, go on.
One last line. I would have finished.
Padmaja, can you ask this man to stop rambling?
Okay, please let's not be personal. Go on. Real-time information not relayed.
His name is Chaithin. You can be decent to me. You don't have to be rude.
Or you allow me a rebuttal.
Yes, go on.
Thank you. Let's be very clear. Let's be very clear. जी हाँ, मेरा वक्त है बोलने का, मैं ही बोलूंगी. Thank you so much. Padmaja, I've already started getting trolled on Twitter. Oh, Sanju Verma said that, it's the Prime Minister's prerogative to have a press conference and discuss issues of national security at his discretion. Let me again say this categorically with no ifs or buts. National security is a very sensitive issue. It is entirely the discretion and prerogative of the government of the day how much to divulge and how much not to. And I say this with full responsibility. Point number one. Point number two, since we've discussed Operation Falcon, hats off to our armed forces of yesteryears, and now let's also discuss Operation Snow Leopard. It is for the first time in the history of post-independent India, Padmaja, that the Chinese were forced to disengage in February 2021, post-Galwan. China was forced to go back to Finger 8 at Pangong So, and India to Finger 3 near the Dhan Singh Thapa post. And the area between Finger 3 and Finger 8 was declared a buffer zone. And do you think that government that, does not play hardball would have forced, an aggressor like China to voluntarily disengage? So please don't say, Arey, Narendra Modi is not a strong PM. And who is saying this? People like Asaduddin Owaisi, who refuses to answer a single question on Hyderabad despite being a member of parliament from Hyderabad umpteen times. अपनी constituency के बारे में जानकारी नहीं है. And these are people who are waxing eloquent on matters of national security. 20 seconds since you've indulged the others. Coming to the Congress party. We are going to answer what needs to be answered. Amit Shah has made that very clear. But pray tell us, and I, direct this question to the Congress party. Between 2005 and 2007, flouting every rule in the rule book, why did the Congress accept donation of 1.3?
We are not going to go in that direction because we are going to keep it to strategy and what happened vis-a-vis the armed forces. Let's not go into the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation, please. That's a debate for another day, and it has been debated. Vivek Srivastava, Sanju Verma says it's a prerogative of the government how much information to put out on a sensitive topic, and they have done that. Point number one. Point number two, how can you talk about an intelligence failure when literally, and this has been borne out, the Chinese aggression was anticipated and pushed back. If intelligence failed, how did you know that they were coming and pushed them back?
Right. Now, yes. Yeah, I request you to give me one complete minute. You're coming to me after 25, 26 minutes
please
in the debate. So please don't interrupt. Now, first thing first, why do we have so many aggressions in the first place? I mean, I'm not going to repeat the points which my friend from TMC and Tehseen have already made. Let's discuss something new and something different. Why are we having so many aggressions? Are the Chinese not scared of you? Do they feel that you are not strong enough? And let me inform you what the American ambassador just said. We had a military exercise jointly with the Americans, the United States, in Oli, in Uttarakhand, 100 kilometers away from the line of actual control. Okay? And when the Chinese objected to it, the American ambassador, at the cost of Indian and the Chinese peace, says, it is none of your business. So are we going to be the next Ukraine? The Americans dished the Ukrainians, and the Americans are going to dish the Indians also.
What did you expect America to do and say that this was uncalled for?
Let me complete.
Sir, you really have a talent for looking for a cloud in a silver lining. So America basically told China to get lost and said, we are going to stand by India because this is their land, and you're saying, oh, this is also a negative.
No, listen to me. Can I speak? Thank you. Elizabeth Jones, who is the American ambassador right now in India, when she was asked by the foreign media that the Chinese at the international level are objecting to the joint military exercise only 100 kilometers away from the LAC, she said, ask the Chinese to mind their own business.
Exactly.
And this is being
which is
said
what
at
every
the Indian
Indian
soil.
also should be saying.
Okay? So if we...
Which is a great thing. Which is what also every Indian should be saying.
Is
mind your own business.
I mean,
it's our land.
You need to have
what
a balanced foreign policy.
Is not China's
you need
problem.
to have a balanced foreign policy, madam. Bhaiya, kya?
What is balanced foreign policy? Okay, what is your definition of balanced foreign policy? That when China says, do not develop border infrastructure, you should go to parliament and say, oh, we've stopped road construction because China has told us to. Is that balanced foreign policy according to you? Is balanced forein policy for China to tell us, do not have joint exercises, and we say, oh, we're going to stay away from America? General Katoch will respond to you. Sir, God forbid the left will form the government. God knows what your balanced foreign policy will be. General Katoch.
I want 10 more seconds.
No. Let General Katoch quickly respond, then I'll come back to you. General Katoch, quick response. Yes.
You wait now.
No, I want to take 30 seconds.
Just wait a minute.
I need 30 seconds. I've not completed my point.
No, you wait. You'll get your 30 seconds. Just wait a minute.
Complete first.
Oh, you'll get your 30 seconds. Just wait a minute.
Okay, Mr. Srivastava, give 30 seconds, then we'll come back to you. I promise. 30 seconds. General Katoch, go on.
No, absolutely not. My point is not complete. My point is
not
complete.
This is for Mr. Srivastava.
My point is not complete.
Okay, I don't think we'll be able to continue. Finish. Mr. Srivastava, finish what you're saying.
Let him speak first.
General Katoch, all I'm saying is, General Katoch, with due respect to you, with lots of respect to you and the army veterans, all I want to say is we need to have a balanced foreign policy. There are 2 or 3 superpowers in the world, the Americans, the Russians and the Chinese. We need to be equidistant from all of them. If we go 100 kilometers from the LAC and we have a joint exercise with the Americans at the American directives, and then the American ambassador at our soil starts threatening the Chinese, it's not a very good foreign policy. I am an Indian. I need safety. I support the Indian soldiers who are fighting the Chinese, but I don't support the stupidity of the BJP's foreign policy.
And you expect us to kowtow to the Chinese when they threaten us for what we are doing on our territory, and that, according to you, is balanced. Sir, with the greatest of respect, that sounds like cowardice. But anyway, go on, General Katoch.
Every 3 months.
General Katoch, yes, respond.
No, I want to answer this. Now I want to answer. No, yeah. Padmaja, I want to answer this now. What India does, whom we exercise with and where we exercise is our prerogative, and there is no way in which any country, including China, can tell us what to do. And I think what the American ambassador said was right, and I have said the same thing personally to the Chinese in a think tank meeting. It is our business and you can buzz off. Now, if any of our people think that if China threatens us and we should keep quiet in the interest of peace, that is not the way to keep quiet. That is a sure way to have war and be defeated. That is cowardice of the highest order, and I would urge all the people who are speaking such language not to use such language because it doesn't behove you. India is a strong country. We will deal with every country based on its merit. We will deal with China, we will deal with America, and we will deal with Russia based on India's interests. And it was in India's interest to do an exercise with the Americans near the international border, and we will do it. So I think there should be no doubts about it.
And you know what is the irony, which is where people laugh at the kind of debate we have on issues like this, at a time like this. On the one hand, you have the opposition saying कि अरे Prime Minister China का नाम क्यों नहीं ले रहा, उन्हें लाल आंख दिखा दो. दूसरी तरफ you are saying अरे अमेरिका के साथ एक्सरसाइज क्यों कर रहे हो, चाइना गुस्सा हो जाएगा. Keep America at an arm's distance. One hand, you are like चढ़ाई कर दो, आज ही चाइना पे चढ़ाई कर दो. दूसरी तरफ you are like exercise भी मत करो. भाई चाइना क्या बोलेगा?
And my soldiers are not guinea pigs.
I mean, sir, you have to have some kind of logic
to be experimented upon by Narendra Modi.
What is the problem that we have?
My soldiers are not guinea pigs to be experimented by Narendra Modi's stupid foreign policy. Every 3 months we are having a Chinese aggression. My soldiers are getting hurt because of stupidity of the Ministry of External Affairs.
It is about preparational readiness.
Ministry of External Affairs की stupidity की वजह से हमारे जवान मारे जाते हैं. इनकी पॉलिसी की वजह से I'll definitely object. हर 3 महीने पे Chinese aggression होता है. क्या फॉरेन पॉलिसी आपकी?
Sir, since when do you think, just a second, sir, Mr. Srivastava, since when do you think Chinese aggressions began? Since you're such a scholar, can you tell us when did Chinese aggressions begin?
Yeah.
When did Chinese aggressions begin?
May I come in, please?
After two, no. Listen to me now. Listen. Don't take me to 1962. Don't take me to 1962.
You tell me now. I'm taking you nowhere. You tell me when did Chinese aggression begin?
You know, we are having a skirmish with the Chinese almost every other day. Then the media comes to do the batting. Then we have the army veterans who come to do the batting. But ultimately, the soldiers are getting hurt. And the soldiers are not supposed to get hurt.
Sir,
because of the stupidity of somebody sitting in the Ministry of External Affairs.
Aggression ho raha hai because to put it very crudely, they want our land. They want our land. And here is what. So imagine Sanju Verma lives next door to you. She builds a wall in your compound. You say that, I am going to ignore this because what if Sanju Verma gets angry? I will just turn a blind eye to it. Then you say, आज जाके संजू वर्मा को न्यूक कर दो, उसे लाल आंख दिखाओ. Now you tell me, what is the option that I have? On the one hand, you are asking me to nuke her, but you say ignore what she is doing in my backyard because I don't want to anger her.
I don't think a peaceful country like India.
This guy has made many reckless allegations.
You will have to deal with her, and for that, if you have to collaborate with General Dhruv Katoch, then that is good diplomacy, sir. Not sitting here and making rhetorical statements about La Lang. General Katoch has to quickly respond, then Sanju Verma. Quick response from General Katoch, then Sanju Verma. Yes.
No, Padmaja, I have to say one thing.
Yeah.
You know, Padmaja, you know what Mr. Srivastava is talking is sheer cowardice. I'm surprised that India's left has so sold itself to China that they are bowing down at Chinese feet. I want to make it very clear. Chinese aggression will not be countenanced at any point, and the Indian Army is there to ensure it, regardless of the support which Mr. Srivastava and the left will give to the Chinese. We will counter them too, and we are going to win our battles, and we will win them on our own strength.
Okay, Tehseen Poonawalla wants to comment. Tehseen Poonawalla, yes.
Padmaja, I'm going to be very, very brief. I have several differences with the BJP. I'm not a BJP supporter. But the exercises with the United States of America were the right thing to do. UPS had earlier at different locations. BJP did it. This is continuation of foreign policy. And exercises with any country is not decided by foreign or external affairs. Exactly. It's decided by the military leadership taking into consideration the strategic interests of the country. So please, let's not bring down a debate into such levels where we cannot hold the government accountable because we come up with such statements that actually make people. So please, I'm sorry, I have several differences with BJP, but this is not right.
Thank you for talking sense. Sanju Verma.
Thank you. Padmaja, now I don't want to be interrupted because there have been a whole host of reckless allegations. And with, no offense to none, you are quick to tick me off. Let's not get personal. I take strong objection, and you did not counter him. Strong objection to Vivek Srivastava's defamatory statement saying the stupidity of the External Affairs Ministry. Please show some sensitivity when you're in a debate. You know, when you're running down the External Affairs Ministry, you're running down your own country. Shame on you. Now let me come to the moot point. Padmaja, I refuse to debate if you can't rein this man.
Okay, please. Final word, Sanju Verma. Final word, please. Let her complete. Go on.
You know, there is a very interesting question that somebody asked. Why do we keep having these transgressions? We keep having these transgressions because while India still believes in the sanctity of the McMahon line, China has never believed in it. After that, in 1993, 1996 and 2005 and even in 2013, we had various CBMs, confidence building measures, which were signed with the Chinese. Where we said we will always exercise restraint from both sides. We will try not to transgress into each other's area in terms of the line of actual control. But we failed in one major area, and I want your audience to know this. When the UPA was negotiating the CBMs in 2008 with the Chinese, they should have added the word existing line of actual control. But the UPA under Manmohan Singh refused to add the word existing, buckling under Chinese pressure. Please, 10 seconds. If the UPA would have added existing line of actual control, the skirmishes which we see today would not have happened. So please get this loud and clear. Narendra Modi is not a Jawaharlal Nehru to allow the Chinese to get away scot-free. We will land a bloody dose to the Chinese like it happened in Galwan.
Okay, you know, and for everyone who says what has been done, let me, you know, we've been putting out figures of how road construction has happened, how constantly we are ramping up our presence in Arunachal, but there are many small details where people miss. For example, the fact that we've got Heron drones, which are now being used to keep an eye on what is happening on the Chinese side at the LAC. And it's for reasons like that, that today we're in a position that we know what they are up to. If people think that suddenly China is going to start talking the language of peace, it's these people who are smoking some kind of pipe. I'll leave it at that. Thanks very much, all gentlemen. Sanju Verma for joining me.